Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the last meeting of 2021. So we have a public hearing on, but let's start by reciting the pledge. Everyone stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have a public hearing tonight that we began on December 7th regarding the removal of unsafe buildings 238 to 240, Route 52. So I make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I turn the floor over to our town attorney, Nancy Tagliafiero.
This involves a notice of dangerous buildings that need to come down. So I guess we're going to take any comments that the public has tonight and hold it over to the second meeting in January. Councilman Eustis, because we're still trying to identify the exact owner now that both of the corporations that had owned the properties have been dissolved by proclamation for failure to pay franchise taxes. It is also partially owned by an estate, and the title company is working through those issues to identify who the proper owner is right now. So if we give that until the end of January, we should be able to come to some resolution by then in terms of who we're supposed to serve, and they will accept service through their attorney, and we'll get it all resolved. In the meantime, they can't do anything because we've got a lien on the property, so they need to satisfy that lien by removing the buildings or they're stuck.
All right, and we'd be actually better off if the new owners are responsive and remove the buildings themselves rather than the town having to do it and then go back.
So you're in correspondence with the attorneys
attorney
of the
for-
new owner or the estate?
The attorney for the seller, which we thought was two different companies that have been dissolved, and an estate. And he's been in touch with the title company for the purchaser who's doing the research on this, and there's also another attorney who's involved who represents the estate.
Sounds pretty complicated.
It's pretty complex, yeah.
Okay.
Just for the public, it's the two shacks as you enter town on Route 52 on that bad corner, right before you get to Kenny's Carpet. Okay, so you know, it's been there, I believe, in some bad condition for like 20 years, and I was hoping that we'd get to that, and I know the building department is working very hard on this, but I guess we'll save it for January.
Bill, is there anything you want to say to be heard on this? Oh, no. Our building inspector, Bill Walters. Does any member of the board want to be heard on this?
Yeah, one more thing, just for, trying not to get into the legal problems of the world here, but a few years ago, I tried to extend myself to try and negotiate some kind of issue to take down that as the liaison to beautification. We got promises that Route 52 is going to be resurfaced in the coming months once the blacktop, spring or summer of 2022. And it would have been nice to have those buildings down, as well as some other things that are happening as part of beautification, as part of the resurfacing of 52, but I guess it'll have to wait.
Anybody else want to be heard?
Susan Kotzer, Town of Kent resident. I remember when Paul Denbaum, Councilman Denbaum, yes, you, first came to office 8 years ago, and he mentioned entering the Town of Kent, and it looked really unsightly. So it's 8 years later, and now it's coming, hopefully, to fruition that those two buildings will be taken down. 8 years ago, you mentioned it.
So,
It's funny. I mean, listen, you can either do two things. You can take over the property by eminent domain. We could have the town just take the property from residents, and not a big fan of that. Or you can hope that the taxpayer develops it. The only thing that we can do is take it down if it's dangerous, is what we're doing now.
Well, however it happens, you mentioned it 8 years ago. And now finally, possibly something is being done about that area.
If I could just
Thank you.
clarify, something is definitely happening. Those buildings are coming down. The only question right now is, are we taking them down, or is the owner going to take them down? That's what
Maybe-
we're trying to work out.
Maybe a typhoon.
And so you know also, during that period, a couple of times when we inquired, the land was going to be sold, and then at the last minute, on a couple of times, fell through for whatever reason.
And 8 years ago, were they unsafe?
Yeah.
I don't think they were as unsightly as they are now, but certainly during this period, I know I've met with multiple possible owners, possible buyers of that property, and we were working towards having them improve the property, just the deals fell through. Anybody else? All right, then I make a motion that we adjourn the public hearing to the second meeting in January. I don't know what that date would be.
Under protest.
Let me tell you the date.
Oh, Bill, you can start voting no now. I mean, there's no time like the present.
Under
So,
protest, but I
January
guess we'll have to.
January 18th,
January 18th.
2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, we have a few items for the Highway
Can
Department.
we please do the last roll call?
Oh, that's right, the last roll call. Can we have roll call, please?
Supervisor Fleming,
Present for the last time.
Councilman Denbow,
Present.
Councilwoman McGlasson,
Present.
Councilman Eustis.
Here.
Councilman Ruthven.
Here.
All present.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now we call the Highway Superintendent, Rich Othmer, who has a few items. Surprise, surprise. Oh, and he wore his ears, okay.
You don't like L's?
You're a little tall.
Actually, I found out Simon Carey and I's family come from the same section of Ireland, so his
So you
ears
gotta
might be
give him
popping
one.
out soon, too. All right, couple of items here. The first item for the Highway Department is the official consolidation of duties for my payroll clerk / confidential secretary. I had it vetted out by the Putnam County Commissioner of Personnel, and Nancy drew up the resolution, and I need to do this to run my office properly, and I appreciate your support in that. There was the secretary before I had Angela was a Teamster, and I had requested it initially. I thought it was a good idea. You guys shot me down, and you were right, because you cannot have a union member with privy to confidential matters for a contract. So that's number one. Number two is I want to add East Road and Clarkson Road. I need a resolution from the board to my highway inventory. For some reason, I was doing an audit of it, and Angela and I were changing all the state had all the roads different names, and one was a road, one was a court, one was a street. So we changed all that, and these two roads were missing, but they were adopted in 1987 by the town board sitting then. And I don't know why New York State missed it. I don't know if I can get retroactive money, but it means a few $1,000s in CHIPS money, so I need to have those added. And then also, all the roads that we paved in the last few years, Miller Hill, Dean Road, Hortontown, so on, we widened them by 2 feet, and now the state does satellite surveys of it. So, you take a mile of road and you widen it by 2 feet, that adds up to, they pay you by the square foot. So that will add up to some extra money. And then those are my two items. And then I guess the bids for the vendors, those are my recommendation. Paul was attending at the bid openings. We put them on spreadsheets this weekend, and I went with the best vendor. There's a couple of them there, I say every year, where like the sand, actually the sand is cheaper this year, but once in a while you pay, like the blacktop bid from Thale was cheaper per ton for us to pick up than it is from, Bill knows, Camarcos, Peckham, but the gas would cancel that out. So anyway, those are correct. I don't know if you have to read those. And last two things I want to bring up is that
Don't we just do it like as attached?
We
don't have to
reference
do
an
it.
attachment, yes.
the whole thing in the package, yeah, there's no reason. We got a notice this week, our New York Bridge grant. We put in for $4.2 million, but we did get a big award of just about $1 million for the South Lake, for the Lake Louise Bridge. And I want to thank the board for all of you for getting the grant writer, because that was a key part. Inside Engineering, they did all the engineering studies with me, and this is the second time I submitted it. So it's in critical condition, the bridge. So this is a good thing for Kent, and I'm proud of all of us. We did a good teamwork together. The board, the highway superintendent, we got outside consultants, and it was a good job. Sagamore Road Bridge, Ninham Bridge, and East Boyd's Road Bridge are 3 critical bridges. We're going to keep hammering them every year. Otherwise, we're doing Mooney Hill this year in-house, my department, and then basically when Sagamore, Ninham, and East Boyd's are upgraded, we hit every bridge in town in hopefully within 12 years, and they're ready for the next century. And that's it. And I want to just say to Bill Eustis and Maureen Fleming and Paul Denbaum, I don't think you're going to find the 3 of us in a hot tub together, but but I think
3
we
or
did.
4? All 4 or just 3?
But I think we did a good job together. We got a lot of stuff done in this town, despite we had some contentious meetings and emails and a lot of therapy and everything else. But we worked well together. We overcame our differences, and I want to say the highway department would not be where it is today if it wasn't for this board. And I no matter what, all our arguments and everything else, I want to thank. It was good working with you. And 8 years on the town board, you deserve some sort of a medal. It's it really is. It's a tough job in a small town. I always said it because everybody knows each other. This kid's friends with that kid, and and this guy's his uncle, and blah blah blah. So I just want to say it was good working with you. I learned a lot, and the last thing with Bill, you do have a little in up at DOT. I couldn't disclose this before, but before the grant came out, you got a shush. Anyway, I want to. Bill had an in, and I forgot to thank Sandy Galiff and Sue Serino, because both of them, we had the Republican side and the Democratic side, were hammering the Bridge New York people, so we kept them off balance, and I think that had a lot to do with it. And also the Kent Police Department, the Kent Fire Department, and the Lake Carmel Fire Department, their letters of support about the bridges, saying how they're not going to be able to support the weight of a fire truck. So they participated a lot too. And with that,
Richie, one more thing.
yes.
You've got a grant now that's going to come out, and I was notified you're going to get some things in writing, timeline, a whole bit. Stay on that, follow it really good. Keep them informed. In 3 or 4 months, the applications come out for the following year. I'm hoping the pandemic doesn't slow things down. But we're an active player, and again, congratulations.
We're one of the few towns that got, it's usually county level stuff, but we're one of the few towns that got an award.
Well,
like
we
that.
have somebody keeping an eye on us, Rich, so,
There's a little elf up there.
but we don't
over
share
there.
that, we don't share that because we came out one time and a nearby town now wants to know what we're doing. And doesn't that feel good? But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Does anybody want to comment on any of these items? Okay.
I guess I would just make a point that I would support the approval of the payroll clerk to perform confidential clerical and administrative duties, and if there wasn't any further discussion, I would move to adopt that resolution.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I have pretty much always treated Angela as your confidential assistant, and I think you are correct that that you do need that that facet of her job description, because I think it's very important with the work that you do and the work she does for the town.
Okay, and then the only change or addition I made is I just specified that when she is serving in the capacity of performing confidential or clerical administrative duties, that it is at her current rate of pay, and it is not higher or lower or result in any different or additional compensation. All right, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the payroll clerk to perform confidential clerical administrative duties to assist the town highway superintendent. Whereas Angela Verity currently works under the civil service title of payroll clerk, pursuant to which she works closely with the town highway superintendent, town accountant on the highway budget, aids the highway department with preparation of documents related to the budget and bidding for materials and supplies, tracks daily spending, tracks purchases and supplies received, and creates vouchers to submit with vendor invoices for payment processing. Whereas the highway superintendent is entitled to appoint a confidential secretary, and whereas in addition to her duties as payroll clerk, Angela Verity currently performs confidential clerical administrative duties for the highway superintendent on a limited as-needed basis, and whereas it is sometimes necessary and advisable to combine the administration duties of municipal employees in order to provide basic yet essential services to town residents while saving costs, and whereas the Putnam County Personnel Department advises that the assigning of confidential clerical administrative duties to assist the town highway superintendent does not violate the civil service law. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town of Kent Town Board authorizes the payroll clerk in the Town of Kent Highway Department to be under the supervision of the highway superintendent, and be it further resolved that Angela Verity is appointed to serve in the capacities enumerated above at her current rate of pay for both payroll clerk duties and confidential clerical administrative duties for the superintendent of highways. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, the next one? I make a resolution updating the local highway inventory. Whereas by letter dated December 15, 2021, the town highway superintendent, Richard Othmer, has recommended the inclusion of certain roads on the local highway inventory prepared for the New York State Department of Transportation. And as set forth on Mr. Othmer's letter is annexed hereto and incorporated herein, and whereas the town board of the town of Kent wishes to accept the recommendations regarding revisions to the local highway inventory made by Mr. Othmer and include to Clarkson Court and East Road to said inventory. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes the addition of Clarkson Court and East Road to the local highway inventory. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I make a resolution awarding highway bids. Whereas the town of Kent advertised for bids for prices of highway material to be effective from January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2022. And whereas bids were received and opened and publicly read at the Kent Highway Garage. And whereas Highway Superintendent Othmer has reviewed the bids and recommends awarding bids for materials to the lowest bidders as set forth on the summary document annexed hereto and incorporated herein. Now therefore be it resolved that upon the recommendation of Highway Superintendent Othmer, the town board of the town of Kent hereby accepts the bids for highway materials for 2022 as set forth on the summary annexed hereto. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Want me to do one?
Yeah, I guess.
Adios.
See you where?
Giggles.
I'd like to see that.
And now we know where Rich goes.
I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution to accept a grant to the Highway Department, whereas the Town of Kent Highway Department has been awarded a grant through the New York State Department of Transportation 2021 Bridge New York Project Awards for the Lake Louise Drive culvert in the amount of $999,000, and whereas the town board desires to accept the grant and to approve and ratify any and all prior action taken by town officials in connection therewith. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby accepts the grant in the amount of $999,000, and be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby approves and ratifies all acts heretofore taken by the town highway superintendent, town supervisor, town board, and any and all other town officials in connection with the subject grant. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is recreation improvements at Eustis Park and the grant award. I invite Jared Kaczynski, our Director of Recreation and Parks, up. So let me give you a little background before I turn it over to Jared, who has said he's going to keep it fairly short this week. But we know what Jared means when he says fairly short. We've been talking for a long time. This is another thing that we've been talking about for a while, is making some improvements at Eustis Park. And Eustis Park is, an underutilized park in western Kent that, over the years we have made some improvements, and during the height of pandemic, we added some hiking trails in Eustis Park. And back in the spring, Jared came before the board with a concept to put on the top of Eustis Park, where right now we just have a small playground, to put a multi-use gaming area up there. And he had pictures and diagrams and drawings and ideas from, different companies about doing this. And we started to meet to talk about this. Deputy Supervisor Eustis, Jared, and I started meeting with someone who became a benefactor on this project. Paul Camarda met with us. He was very excited about this project. He brought in Jeff Cantelmo of Insight Engineering, and Paul kind of made a promise to us that he would have some initial drawings done and, kind of flesh out at no cost to the town what this area would look like. And the more we talked about it, the more excited we got about the possibility of actually making some major improvements at Eustis Park, not just this multi-use area, but adding a pavilion with bathrooms and all kinds of other amenities that I'm not going to steal Jared's thunder. And we thought, how are we going to fund this? We have some money in the bank. We have some money put away for this kind of project. But what would be a really great way to do it? And a really great way to do it would be to get money through the consolidated funding application. So we said, well, let's try to see if we can get it together. And people doubted that we could. They thought maybe we didn't have the engineering, maybe we didn't have the letters of support, maybe we didn't have the match, because to apply for a $500,000 grant, you need $500,000 going in. And we pushed, and we contacted people, and we got letters of support from various, we got letters of support, I think, from residents. We got letters of support from Senator Chuck Schumer, from the monastery, and of course, one of Kent's best friends and biggest advocates, our Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, who is here tonight. And not only did Sandy give us a letter of support, which was really wonderful, but she pledged $125,000 for this project. And let me tell you, without that, we would have never been awarded the grant that we have received for this project of $491,313. So thank you, Sandy. Thank you for coming. And I want to thank the team for really moving this project forward. Our grant writer was fantastic. And he said to us about 3 weeks before the submission date, I don't think you guys are going to be able to do it this year. I don't think we're going to get everything we need. And we did. We reached out to people, and people were, wonderful and came forward, and we got the grant. And now, in addition to the grant, we have a promise from Paul Camarda that he will cover the engineering for this project moving forward. So that is really massive. We thought maybe we were going to put a little tiny playground up there. And Jared, I leave the rest to you.
All right, good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Jared Kozensky, and I'm the Director of Recreation and Parks for the town. And I'm not going to recap everything Maureen just said, but this project's been going on kind of in the theoretical stages for almost a year now, and it morphed from just being something very small and maybe a few improvements to a tremendous project, which I'm going to go over briefly with everyone. But before I do, I just want to, I want to really give a shout out to the entire board, because I remember when I first came with the project and I said, hey, we have a playground up there that's kind of crummy looking, and there's not much at the park, I really think it could be a lot better. Here are some ideas. And they all unanimously said, well, why don't you come back, instead of just bring us a couple ideas, tell us everything you'd want to see. And I remember Chris used the phrase, like, what's your dream for the park? And so I came back and said that, and even then I was a little reserved, and I was like, well, I don't know if we could do all of this, but maybe we can do it in phases. And I remember, Paul, you said, well, hey, if we're going to do this, let's put it in the bathrooms, and let's put in everything, and, let's make this a destination and an attraction. And so I think the board on a whole deserves a tremendous amount of credit for really being supportive of this, really caring about the facilities that the town has and making sure that they're the best we can offer. And Maureen and Bill, I've been working with them in these meetings with Paul Camarda and Insight, and they've just been tirelessly really pushing me not only to be the best that I could in coming up with this, but also, as Maureen said, making calls, emailing people, getting the support, from government officials, from people within the community. And it's resulted in something that I think is really cool, and I think you guys are going to be thrilled with. The people I've shared it with, other professionals in the field, have endorsed it. We had a few of them on the trivia the other night, and professionals who are very much interested in seeing how this all plays out. And so I'm going to present it now, take questions afterwards. But once again, thank you to everyone for being so supportive of this. I mean, this is probably the most awesome thing I've been a part of since I started here, and I couldn't have done it without the support. So, all right, I won't ramble too much, but let's go. All right, so on the screen is an aerial view of the part of Eustis Park that we use. So we actually use there's actually about 100 acres of the park, and this is about 10. The other 80 acres, 90, whatever it is, 90 acres, there's hiking trails and everything else. But this is kind of the park proper, if you will. And what you see, the big light green area, that's where our 2 softball fields are, and kind of a big wide open field that we use for other activities. And then on the bottom where you see a whole bunch of lines, which I'll zoom in on, that is that upper level of the park that Maureen referenced. Right now, all that's up there is a playground and then a bunch of trees. So the idea would be to kind of completely excavate that so it's one flat area, which it kind of already is, it just needs to be cleared, etc. One flat area where we put a lot of these cool new amenities. So I'm going to zoom in on that section because that's kind of the most important part, and then I'll kind of tie it all in. So just bear with me. It's a little slow to respond. Give me 1 second. All right, so as you see here to the right is the roadway when you drive in. So one of the issues with Eustis Park right now is there's not enough parking for the minimal events that take place there. So Maureen, you were out there for our Ultimate Frisbee tournament, and that wasn't even a huge event, and it was jam-packed with parking. So one of the first things Insight came up with were 2 ways to increase the parking, because if we're going to have increased amenities, ideally we'll have more people there. And right now we have a day of men's softball, and they're parked all the way up the roadway, which is dangerous. So first thing we're going to do is, you see where the main parking lot is to the right. Insight's plan is to actually excavate into what's a little hillside there, you can tell by the contour lines, and add about 20 head-in parking spaces. And 20 parking spaces that's actually 50% of the current parking, a 50% increase. So that just goes to show you how little parking there is and how much of an improvement that would be. And then what we also decided was that having a parking lot up on that top platform would be great. 1, because it would be handicap accessible, which is super important to us. But 2, it would kind of create this centralized area. So as you can see, there's a roadway that is kind of at the bottom of the field area, and then that actually goes up a little hill and leads us to about a 40-spot parking area to the left of that upper platform. And it will have the handicap parking, and it'll kind of be all in there. If you're having a party and whatever else, the last thing you want to do is park on this lower level and have to cart all of your stuff 200 yards to get it to the pavilion or whatever else. So this way we have a parking area in a suitable space. So then, this is where all the fun stuff comes in. Parking's kind of boring, I can't lie. But this is where all the cool stuff comes in. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more, which I think I can. It was pretty, there we go, yes. So the first thing we wanted to do is make sure there was a lot of clear area. And the reason for that is, programming, needs, wants, things that people are interested in. Over time, that all changes. No matter what, we can put something in and it's super cool now, and in 20 years, no one's going to be interested in it. It's just the way it goes. It's unavoidable. So we want to have a lot of open space. That way, as you can see, it kind of says future program area. That way, as time goes, we can add things in if necessary, or just have open space, because there's, having, open land it's a good thing. You can run around, you can make believe, you can use your imagination. But then from in there, we start to fill in that open space with the things we think are going to be really important. So the first thing was the pavilion/bathroom combination thing. If you were at the meeting several months ago, basically what that looks like is a big pavilion, and then on the back side is an area for 2 bathrooms, machine room, potentially a concession stand, etc. And it's kind of the way, most parks now have them. It's kind of the way that you go to save on space. Instead of having the bathroom building kind of separate over here, the pavilion over there, you put them together, you save some space, and if you're at the pavilion and you need a bathroom, well, hey, that works. So that's what we want to have there, and the reason we want to have it not too far from the parking lot, once again, is we want it to be accessible. And we're not exactly sure how big it's going to end up being, but right now we're thinking, 8 to 10 picnic tables and then 2 one-stall bathrooms. So next to that, we then have the playground, which, as I said, the playground is what started this all, because what's up there, it was great, but it's getting old, etc. So we're going to put in a nice modern playground, and what we're going to do is, a lot of parks you go to, they have this one playground, everything's all together, but what you end up with is that playground is either all for younger kids, or, well, generally it's usually all for younger kids, and there's not many amenities for the older kids, and you end up with younger kids and older kids all playing together on the same stuff. So you got 3-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and it can be, not the best experience. So what we discussed was having, basically it's going to be 3 amenities. One is a playground for the younger kids, one is for the older kids, and then we'll have swings and those type of apparatus. And they'll all be in that rectangular area, spread out enough where kids can kind of be separated, but in the same area so that everybody can play together all the same. As you can also see, there's that area with the X on it, so that is where the leach fields will ultimately go. Insight will have to run tests, or whoever ends up doing the engineering, but Insight will be doing, they're going to be doing it, yeah. Insight will be doing it. So they're going to determine exactly where, but right now they believe, unfortunately, the one thing about Eustis Park is it doesn't have a lot of great soil, so they believe this is probably the only area for it. And then lastly, which is my favorite part of it, is the multi-use sport court. So I won't go into everything on this, but those of you who've looked at the presentation previously know that this is like my baby, if you will. And what this is it's ideal for areas where you don't have a ton of space to expand, which is what Eustis Park is. So ideally, if you have this huge wide open park, right, you can put in a tennis court, and then over here a basketball court, and then over there, something else, whatever. I'm not coming up with the words, but you can spread out and have all these different amenities for all different types of activities. Volleyball court, there was a third one. Perfect. But Eustis Park, we really can't do that. There just isn't enough space. A lot of it isn't buildable, et cetera, et cetera. So what we came up with, and it's actually very common in Europe and kind of on the West Coast, not as much here, is to install what's called a MUGA, which means multi-use games area. It's basically this facility that kind of houses all different activities in it, and it's set up in a way that you can do multiple activities at the same time, or you can easily transition from one to the other. So perhaps at 10 a.m. we have a floor hockey game, and then, okay, 12 o'clock pickleball starts, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we want to put in there. And once again, it really helps us because we don't have a lot of space, but now we can run all these different activities that we may have not been able to run before. So like I said, some of the ideas that we've already come up with is they make this where there's actually like a special solid wall that surrounds the facility, but what's built into the wall are goals. So you can do floor hockey, or you can do what's called futsal, which is basically a hard court soccer type game. And then they have posts built into the wall. So hey, in the locker we have a volleyball net, and we're just going to string it right across after floor hockey's done. And then at night we can do pickleball or tennis. There's so many different activities we can now do, and so many reasons to bring people out to a park that they otherwise really had no reason to ever visit in the first place. So that to me is kind of that's going to be the attraction, the draw, what really makes people say, hey, we're going to be out at Eustis Park for the day, for whatever activity it is that they're doing. And ultimately will, transform this park from something that is lightly used to something that really sees a lot of traffic, which is ultimately what we want. We want people taking advantage of our park space. And then one of the last things which we all thought was really cool, and it seems minor, but to me, it's not, and that is this dashed line that goes around the entire park. And the one thing we do see at Eustis Park, and I'm sure, Sue, you know this, is people love to come out and walk around the perimeter, but we don't have a path, and some areas are a little lumpy and soggy and this and that. So one thing we would also do is put a nice walking path around the park. And in the big scheme of things, it's probably one of the least expensive, et cetera, jobs that we're going to do as part of this park, but it's something that I think ties it all in together nicely, and I don't know, I'm excited about it. So, yeah, I think that covers everything. Obviously, this is a concept plan, so I just want to make sure. The difference between a concept plan and a site plan is this is still a dream. Obviously now, like Maureen said, Paul Camarda has pledged to, take care of the engineering for this project, which I want to make sure the magnitude of that is well stated. It's engineering a project like this is probably close to a six-figure job. So who knows how much it will end up being, but Paul's commitment is a significant commitment, and I wanted to make sure I gave him a shout out as well, because it's just absolutely tremendous. But so Insight's going to come in, and they're going to dig test holes and do bores, core samples, and determine exactly how much of this can be built in this fashion, or how things are going to have to be turned, amended, and obviously they're going to handle DEC and DEP, and because there's swampy areas, et cetera, which all needs proper permitting and retention ponds. We love retention ponds. So, all of that will kind of take place over the next maybe 6 to 8 months. They have to do an archaeological study to make sure, archaeological things aren't there. And the seeker, which is working with what's the state environmental
Quality Review Act.
There you go, perfect, that thing, yes. They'll have to do that as well to make sure that what we do is in accordance and within their guidelines. So there's a lot of engineering still to be done, so what we present finally may look a whole lot different than what you see up on the screen, but I think, this kind of gives you an idea of where we're moving, and I hope everyone is as excited about it as we are. So, Sue, I know you have questions. I knew it, I could see you right there, I saw it. There is not, but I'd consider it.
What is it?
She asked if there was a hot tub. So you and Richie
And Maureen and Paul can all get in the hot tub together.
I'm skipping that, and I'm skipping the giggles rendezvous. Yeah.
Jimmy, you weren't here for that comment. I'm sorry.
But I just, before I end or take questions, I just real quick want to also thank Insight. Obviously, they came in and, Jeff, it was first John Watson who was actually, helped me kind of put together my initial proposal, and then Jeff Cantelmo kind of took over once Paul got involved. But I'll be perfectly honest, and I'm not afraid to say it, I don't know a whole lot about this deeper level engineering and developing of land. That takes a special skill set, and I'm certainly learning as we go. But the two of them, John and Jeff, were really, really patient with me as I asked a lot of probably basic questions and really tried to learn. And I had spent hours on the phone with both John and Jeff, And, you know, they were always
Bet
so,
you did.
you know, eager to help me out and walk me through this process. So I just wanted to give them a shout out publicly, because I know I asked a lot of silly questions and whatnot, but, you know, they were good teachers, and I think that that was important for me. So, yeah.
So
Does
any
anyone have
comments
any questions? Okay.
Where's the original parking?
You mean the parking?
Here, you have this parking here. Where's the other parking in the flagpole?
I was gonna order a laser pointer on Amazon so I could do this, but I forgot. So right now, there's parking here, and in this middle area right here, and then there's a few parallel spots along here, but nothing to that magnitude.
So you're taking out the parallel spots and you're putting,
Yes, they believe it'll be a net addition of 20 cars.
okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Bill? Yeah, Jared,
Yes.
we took out the dog park and the skate park. I think for financial reasons, also I felt congestion, but the dog park, they're working on something in Kent at the county park, which you'll read about later on in life. Also, when they started to build this years ago, and I guess we haven't found the records yet, there had to be a CEQA review. There had to be all sorts of looking for that, all those findings, be it the box turtle or whatever, because that whole area was worked over big time with, you know, the engineers. Putnam engineers might have been involved in this, and I think they're still around, some of them. I don't know if there's files on there, but otherwise,
With respect to the archaeological study. And
yeah,
everything,
right.
Yeah,
And-
we had, you know, Lana had been looking, we haven't been able to find records yet, but we're gonna still see what we can do.
I just hope they weren't done by Cashin. Would you remember that?
Cashin or Putnam Engineering,
That-
Gary
that
Tresh.
building burnt down, and we did lose documents at that point, but we've searched. and
Gary
no-
Tresh, I believe, if I remember right.
Nothing archaeology at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Well, if the state has the submissions, then they should be able to reference that, even if our engineers' documents aren't.
And one thing that we worked on hard behind the scenes, and there are some people that we thank, and he and we will not advise of that because they want to be quiet. But New York City DEP, they own land on both sides, and we've tried to be a partner with them. And unfortunately, Mr. Lenz retired. We didn't know that, but there was a draft letter of support from the DEP in New York City, which would have been really great, but they killed it once it went down to the bureau chief in New York City. And I'm not going to forget that. We need to work with, DEP owns all this land up here, and if you remember the history, and some have been in the audience with the history, where they spend thousands of dollars for Horse Pond Road and Smoyers area for parks, and at the last minute killed it, but support worked with us when we spent a lot of engineering things. I'll never forget that, and I reminded somebody about that, and it was thousands of dollars. It was out of my hands, it was a town board member, but at the last minute, new engineer came and killed it. So I will remind the new person that they hire that keep an eye on Kent and work with us. And hopefully we'll find, somebody that will relate and work with the quality of life programs that we need in Kent.
Well, and we were very lucky to have state and federal support for this. Again, Assemblywoman Galiff, wrote a tremendous letter of support and committed matching funds of $125,000. And when I contacted Chuck Schumer's office, I was told he generally doesn't write letters of support for local grant applications, but he came through, and I think Jared framed it or something, I don't know.
Our Assemblywoman, Sandy Galiff, has been tremendous to the town of Kent
Absolutely.
for years, okay? And also in my past, working with the Office for the Aged and the Elderly. Tremendous person. I think I went to one of her last meetings at the Kent Library. He says, "You're a power broker, shake up that Albany and see what we can do, And I said it in jest, and I think she felt that, but no, I've dealt with Sandy Galiff for the staff for many, many years. In fact, when she was a Westchester County legislator, I worked in the Peekskill-Ossining area there and followed her for many years. So and many people in that area that my first 5 years. So, but she's been very supportive of Kent, and again, I thank you.
If we started naming things after Sandy, we'd have a playground, we'd have bridges, we'd have roads, and now we'd have a park. So, again, thank you. Go ahead.
I know you're getting a lot of funds from different agencies. How will this affect the taxpayer of the town of Kent in the future?
The park?
Excuse me?
How will the park affect?
How will this affect our taxes in the future?
I don't see how building a park is going to have an effect on our
I can't
taxes.
hear you.
I don't see how building a park will affect resident taxes.
Who's going to be the personnel in charge of that project? Bathrooms and sewers and...
Jared.
So
Jared's going to do it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jared, so much. I will send you my tax bill. Thank you.
yeah.
I'll comment on that just briefly also. And I definitely, I think I understand what you're saying, Sue. But the one good thing about it is that we're going to be able to run, organized recreational programs out there, programs which will require fees and will offset the costs as we do with, programs at Ryan's Park, etc. So I do believe that's one thing that perhaps will ease some of your worries, is the fact that we, what we'll be able to do out there. Listen, we're going to have running water, we're going to have bathrooms, etc. So yes, of course there is a recurring cost, electrical, etc. But I truly believe that we're going to be able to transform the use of that park, whether it be, park rentals, pavilion rentals, use of fields, use of the multi-use court from outside organizations. So we'll be able to generate revenue that way. And then once again, through, regular programming, which we've done a very good job of, in my opinion, not to toot my own horn, but I think our department and town has done a very good job of building up those programs year after year, and I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to continue to do that with new and more unique programs. So, hope that helps a little.
How many parking spots are proposed when it's all said and done?
So as Sue pointed out, there would be the removal of some and the addition of others. So it'd be a net increase. I don't know what the total number is, but it'd be a net increase of 60 spots roughly.
How many spots are there now, Bill? Do you know? 20?
Jesus,
It's probably in the 40s.
20 years ago, I counted them, but I don't remember now.
I believe it's something like 45.
So then we'd be about at 100?
Yeah.
And then how many spots are at the lower side of Ryan's field?
Well, we're totally redoing that now, so of course.
Upper. Let's go upper.
But if I had to ballpark down there on the lower end of Ryan's, it's probably similar
to this.
That
Okay.
main lot, probably like 40-ish.
Yeah.
All right, so there'll be a fair amount of, compared to the amount of facilities, you'll probably have more parking spaces per facility here than you do at Ryan's
Yeah,
Park.
I would agree with that. Which is ultimately why we'll keep going at Ryan's Park too with the parking.
And the good thing is that we'll be building parking on that upper level so that it will be handicap accessible. Realistically, people aren't going to have to always go up that hill, which is, problematic now. So
it's a significant slope.
it's a significant improvement.
So, did anyone have any questions?
Just a quick comment over and above recreation, though, in spending a lot of time on these grants, you will find some that they want significant local match. We've explored many things, actually, met with Arts on the Lake, for example. But in some of the arts grants that are out there, they want a 50% local match, and that's significant. But a good idea what happened with the Kent Conservation Committee. And I don't know if that, I guess, got a lot of mileage. It was in the newspaper, but I got a $49,000 grant, but there was a local match. And the volunteers, who I believe are scientists, I know there's a professor, a retired professor, IBM lady that we might know.
She's not retired.
But they accepted that in kind. And that's how innovative you got to be. And then when it comes down to, budgets and stuff, that's why we have the public hearings on everything. The bridge grant, I don't, as far as engineering and stuff, but $999,000 for what we're paying for a grants writer, we've got to weigh the pros and cons, and I think we've accomplished something that we've never experienced before, and it's the beginning. If we all stick together, I mentioned this 4 or 5 months ago, we need to work together. We're all taxpayers, yes, but I see what other communities, just drive around some of our adjacent communities. I was in East Fishkill this morning, checking out some information there. I've been down to Somers, Town of Carmel. We got a personal tour, and what has been spent and what has been going on down there is unbelievable the last 10 years. So this is the beginning. There's going to be some other news, hopefully, in the next few months.
Yeah, we actually, we've announced the 2 big grants, obviously the 2 biggest grants that we've heard about in the last 2 weeks, but the town of Kent also was awarded a $30,000 grant through DEC's non-agricultural, non-point source pollution planning grant program, and that's going to fund stream bank stabilization engineering for Lake Carmel. And we also got a $19,800 grant through DEC's non-agricultural, non-point source pollution planning grant program to fund a stream bank stabilization engineering report for Seven Hills Lakes as well. So in the past couple of weeks, the town of Kent has been awarded $1,540,452. So I think that's pretty significant.
And Maureen, and there are some that haven't gotten some of the news that has come out. We've gotten many grants for the Kent Police, Fire Service for both fire departments. The lake's got a small grant. Palmer Lake, we pushed it over to $375,000 for Palmer Lake. Somebody's got to stay with that. They'll be watching us because you need more money for that. Lake Carmel is one big challenge, and we've got some stabilization grants. We started a trust for the tree trust for donations for trees. All those trees we lost. We got an Arbor Day grant. There's a lot of things that we can explore that we feel are beneficial. There's some you got to skip. And I'm going to come back again. I know I was laughed at months ago when we got the zombie grant, the local initiatives zombie grant. Our Pro-Champs registry program estimated 200 zombie homes in our town. Wake up. Wake up. We are addressing it. The private sector is flipping them. And we're holding the banks and the lenders accountable, and building departments doing a hell of a job, and part-time staff under Bill. And the other thing was the $100,000 for the Lake Carmel Dam. It's going to pay for some of the engineering, but you got to stay with it. We're players now, and I hope we can continue to be players in the future. Otherwise, that tax money, which is yours, is going to another town, and that's what we're a player. Let's be fair and balanced to the town of Kent.
Okay.
And it's not the town of Kent. Kent can if we all work together.
I like that. It's a good slogan.
I better shut up, right?
Kent can.
I get that reputation like Jared,
Yeah, you're stretching out
Zing.
his time.
Yeah, I'm only stretching out my time. Oh, Jay was here. I was just going to say I was trying to make it just that much longer for him. But real quick, before I finally do go, I would just like to say, I know Sandy's, ears are probably ringing at this point, but it really, your sincere care for our community is not lost on any of us. And, you see that playground out there? I mean, I'm here every day, and it's the most used playground probably in the entire town. I think is 100%. And I can assure you that, the money for Eustis Park will be certainly well invested. And I think when you see the finished product, you're going to know you backed the right guys. So I just want you to know how much we really appreciate it. And, obviously your support for my department has been tremendous. And I just wanted to personally thank you. And I don't know if it's appropriate, but I think we should all give Sandy a round.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything, sincerely. And then once again, I'd just like to, Maureen and Bill, it's been a pleasure really, working with you on this. And I have been, speaking with Councilwoman McGlasson and with Councilman Ruthven, and I know that they have a sincere interest in this project as well, and I'm super excited to kind of transition this and, to get your ideas and your knowledge into it and really kind of build on what we have. And, hopefully by 2023, we'll
Right, they're going to carry the torch, but,
carry the torch. I told you I was going to bring a torch. I
But
forgot.
if,
Yeah, sorry.
if they want Bill and I to come and help, we'll be
Help
happy.
cut the ribbon.
Absolutely. But yeah, we've been in talks, and I can't wait to sit down with you guys in January with Jeff from Insight and really.
And it does not stop here.
Yeah, well, that's
Major
the
League
point, yeah.
Baseball, NRPA, we're going after some stuff.
Okay.
Let's, sometimes we get denied. We don't stop. You keep on plugging away.
Amen. So, all right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Jared.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Jared.
I gotta give you credit. You worked zombie houses into that
I know.
recreation presentation. You did.
We don't,
I don't know if anybody in the audience has a vacant and abandoned home in their neighborhood. Lake Carmel is significant. Kentwood Lake Association has 4 of them. There's some in West Kent that you will probably, if you've not been up to the back roads. I drove many of those roads and listed them. I had to verify them with the state of New York. Pleaded for 3 or 4 years. Mrs. Galeff's staff helped me out, and Senator Serino's staff helped me out. I went to training, I went to things, I shook them up. I had the proof. You got to have proof. Then Bill Walters' staff verified it with Bill Walters, an independent, verified. $50,000 came, and it is working.
That's good.
And I think we have to tweak the law a little bit because it's working too hard right now. He's not here yet, but we're going to hear from somebody, I think, tonight.
okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll be quiet.
Do you, should we do what we do frequently at these meetings and move an agenda item up?
Sure.
And deal with, because our chief is going to be here, so he's
not going
really
anywhere.
allowed. Kent Waterworks, do you want to introduce this topic, Nancy, or just introduce, I'll invite Kevin Young to the microphone, Kevin Young of Young Summer, to talk about this petition.
Finally get to meet Kevin Young.
You've never,
So, so the project has been around for 30 years. I don't
The
know-
microphone, make sure you use the microphone.
This is a project that's been around for 30 years, and I don't know how much of the background you want me to go into. Do you? Well, so I'm going to go quickly through it. So, I mean, this is a project that originally got its approvals in, I think, 1988 or thereabouts. At that point, it was 303 townhouses, I believe. And the contractor or the owner started construction. He ran into financial issues. He stopped construction. And then when we tried to start construction again, New York City DEP was, at the time, they were developing their watershed rules and regulations, and they had said that the town of Kenton is in a phosphorus-restricted basin, and therefore there could be no new sewage treatment plants. So we spent a good 10 or more years litigating with the city, and finally, at tremendous cost, we got their approval, and the project was re-permitted in around 2008 to 2010. But due to a variety of factors, in part the recession that hit, we didn't have any takers on the project. Now we do. We have and the project's been again updated to reflect what customers would want or consumers would want in 2020. And so it's now a much smaller project. It's 150, I'm going to say, townhouse, single-family home type units that are, instead of 303 or 273, which was another interim number. This facility has its own water system and its own sewer system, and it was the sewer system that took us umpteen years to do. And that sewer system was actually constructed. It was permitted in 2008, but we constructed it in 2013, 2014 in part to serve the town of Kent sewer district. And in fact, the permit previously was for 70,000 gallons a day. The permit was increased to 103,000 gallons a day. 43,000 of those gallons are owned by the town of Kent, and it's for the town of Kent. Some of them can be for new development, some of them are for existing development. We retained 60,000. This project, now that it's reduced, will use about 40. So there will be some additional capacity there. We do need, the problem we have now is that the only people using the wastewater treatment plant is the town of Kent. And it's a big plant for a few people, and it's costing a huge amount of money. So we need to get this project built, and we need to get these people buying water and buying sewer. So we also have a water system that's been permitted 3 times now, and we had to redo all our DEC permits. So DEC is holding up the issuance of the permits until we form a transportation corporation for the water system. They want the water system to be owned by a transportation corporation. In sewer, the towns approve of the transportation corporation, and they actually approve of the rate structure. In water, the towns approve of the water transportation, but the Public Service Commission regulates the rate structure. So we put together a petition that to form the Waterworks company. We'd like you to pass a resolution authorizing us to do that. We then file a certificate of incorporation. DEC will reissue our permits, and the project will get built or start some construction, I'm sure, in 2022.
So the water supply will be off of a number of ground drilled wells?
Yeah, so the wells were installed in 1986.
They're there already?
Yeah. In order to do a water system and get it permitted, you got to demonstrate that you have that quantity of water and that you have that quality of water, and that when you withdraw the water, you're not going to have an impact on any of the surrounding neighbors. So that's the permitting process, both with New York State Department of Health and the Putnam County Health Department, and then there's a part of it that DEC has. DEC kind of worries about the quantity, where DOH worries about the quality, you might say. So we've been through this permitting 3 times, but we're at the last stage now, the 3rd time they wanted a transportation corporation for
All right, so that brings my next question, because, and I don't want to go into it if it's a long answer, but why would a water supply need to have a transportation corporation? That makes no sense to me.
Okay, so the reason you have transportation corporations is because one person will own the water and it'll be serving, in this case, 150 people. And so the idea is that that person, when you grant a transportation corporation, you're granting to the corporation the right and the obligation to provide water to that property.
The word transportation doesn't refer to buses and cars. It's the distribution of the water system.
Exactly that, a distribution system.
All right, now I understand. That
You know
was my
what?
question.
What is really weird about all this is these laws were adopted like in 1850 and 1860. I mean, they're really old laws that when you read them today, they're definitely outdated.
Not that the water part of it isn't super interesting, but you mentioned townhouse, single-family homes is kind of like a combined thing. Is the project townhouses or single-family homes?
I would,
Age-restricted units, And
yeah,
it's 160 units that's being planned.
it's 150, I think.
150? I was told 160.
150 units, one or two, there might be in groups of 3 attached.
Okay.
And, you know, I think they're going to either be sold as townhouses or as condos.
Okay, so not single
Not
standing,
standing, yeah.
single, okay. And then do we have an idea in the bedroom capacity of each unit?
Not
Well,
more than 400.
okay, yeah, so that's how, the way DEP regulates us, the city regulates us, is we are allowed a certain number of bedrooms. And so I think we were allowed 570 bedrooms,
Okay.
and now it's something, we're doing something less, but.
And not to, just because I'm interested in it, and you said that the plan was updated to take into account the realities of who are our shoppers, who are our purchasers in 2020.
Yeah.
Seeing that New York State in the last year alone has lost 300,000 residents, the most out of any state in the union, and most of those residents are senior citizens, you know, heading south for, you know, a few winters. Is there a real market for more senior age-restricted housing? I mean, maybe you don't know, and that's okay. I'm just kind of asking questions that interest me. It's my last meeting, so.
I have a funny feeling that somebody, you got,
Yeah.
you got the.
Well, you
subway.
meant, if you recall, the Ken Akers Corporation, Whitney Singleton and his staff, I forgot the engineer and stuff, did meet with us, and I believe he did also have a presentation here in public. We have a high percentage of elderly in our town. There is no elderly housing in our town, and this was a possibility or something that can be done. It went from 300 some odd units, and they cut it down to 100, and I thought it was 160, but 150. And I'm hoping that a lot of our Lake Carmel people will move into some of these new homes and free up for more kids for Jared, who's not here now.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm just curious as to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember because we had housing surveys in the past in my past, and I just thought this was the list of people in the Carmel senior projects, the one near ShopRite, the one near Seminary, are all significant, and it's a number of years. And there might be there's people that want to purchase their own home and stuff, and I think that was advantageous instead of you know, having the other options.
And is this the last hurdle before construction can begin, our approval of this?
DEC issuance of permits, which we need your approval to do that.
But, so this is basically,
Yes.
so we approve
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
we can guarantee
Yeah,
construction.
I should say we're still waiting for Army Corps. We had the Army Corps permits, they expire, and so there's just beginning the public comment from us.
Yeah.
Okay.
The town board the previous years, I think, twice approved this already, you know.
Yeah.
So I support, you know, 30 years of litigation, 30 years of this and that, and I think it's time to move on, and if this is just one thing that's holding it up, I think and we've approved it twice in our town history, so.
Bill, and I do think that they've committed some money to a senior center. I think-
That is something that's iffy right now.
But my understanding is
Yeah,
that we still make a commitment if it's necessary.
That's
know,
my
there
understanding
is-
as well.
There
Yeah.
is, excuse me?
That is also my understanding, that the commitment is
Yeah, I
still there.
didn't, right now, the Kent seniors have no home for the last 2 years, and it's embarrassing from where my past, when we tried to get a county senior center here, and with the Lake Carmel Community Center having some issues, and we tried to put a project back here twice, and it's environmentally, I think it'd be a major problem back here. There's a stream, and there's wetlands, and other political issues, and I think something that we near Nichols, Route 52, that is on old farmland would be something, but it's just a dream right now, but we're working on a few other dreams that, it's just a dream, so I'm hoping, but you did offer a contribution towards the thing in the back here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the public have any comment or questions?
How many bedrooms? How many bedrooms will this, no, in each unit?
1 or 2.
1 or 2?
I think.
You think?
Would have to be 1, 2, or 3, I would think. Because if you double 150, that's 300, and it's 400 beds, so you would think some would probably
It's a
be
mix.
So it's 400 bedrooms split over 150 homes. So 2
1, 2, or 3.
So it's a senior complex?
Age restricted, yeah.
And they need 3 bedrooms?
2 to 3.
2 to 3 bedrooms. Okay. All right, thank you.
Bill would need 3 for all his grandchildren to come visit.
What's that?
You would need a 3-bedroom for all your grandkids to come visit.
12-bedroom. I think it's a good use of the property. I have to drive that road multiple times every day, and it's just getting more and more dilapidated. I do remember when they had started construction, there was something built out there. I
And
don't know
they
if it
ripped them
caught
down.
on fire or burnt down or
They
something.
had to rip them down.
The old sewer plant was there for a while, and they ripped that out and put a new one in. I'm happy to see it get cleaned up. It's kind of an eyesore driving by it all the time. And I look forward to any cooperation they could have with the town to put in a senior center or a rec center for the town to be a good location for it.
Louis, you have to come to the microphone.
Clarifying, this is the location that has in the past been known as Kent Manor and Lexington
Yes.
Ridge, right? Yes.
Anyone else? Are we ready to move ahead with the resolution tonight?
Yes.
I make a resolution consenting to the formation and incorporation of the Kent Hills Waterworks Corporation. Whereas RFB LLC, the petitioner, has petitioned to the Town of Kent for consent to incorporate the Kent Hills Waterworks Corporation pursuant to Article 4 of the Transportation Corporation's Law in conjunction with the construction of a condominium project located in the Town of Kent. A copy of the petition is attached hereto as Exhibit A. And whereas Section 41 of the New York State Transportation Corporation's Law requires a proposed waterworks corporation to obtain the consent to incorporate from the municipality in which the project is located, and since the proposed project is located within the Town of Kent, consent is required by the Town Board of the Town of Kent for the formation of the Transportation Corporation. And whereas the petitioner, RFB LLC, has requested the consent of the Town Board of the Town of Kent to incorporate Kent Hills Waterworks Corporation to operate and maintain the water supply infrastructure for the condominium project referenced herein. And now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby consents to the formation and incorporation of the Kent Hills Waterworks Corporation. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Denbaum?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGlasson?
Yes.
Councilman Eustis?
Yes.
Councilman Ruthven?
Yes.
Supervisor Fleming?
I abstain.
Motion carried.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is body-worn cameras, and I invite our Chief of Police, Kevin Owens, up to the microphone. This is an issue that we started discussion, I think, back in November, but we started it earlier with the police panel
Yeah.
discussion.
So it's been an ongoing issue for actually several years. I mean, but it was really brought up during the police panel and has been a topic throughout the state. In New Jersey, they've already mandated that all police departments have them by 2023. I'm assuming New York State's going to do that in the very near future. At least that's the direction that we're going in. Last year, after we started the police panel, we got in touch with Axon, who is the largest maker of the body-worn cameras and also does our tasers. They have a trial program where you can try some out. They gave us 3 cameras to try. We tried them out for a year. Feel like we had a pretty good feel for how they were being used. 1 sergeant and 2 officers wore them. came in handy several times throughout the year, and actually have used as evidence in some cases. So we feel like they're going to be a benefit to the majority of the department and to the town. We asked them for a lease. They've updated the lease with everything that we could think of that, you know, that we would need. The lady came back to us the other day, and you guys have the lease in front of you. It's basically $195,000 for 5 years, which is approximately $39,000 a year. And that would give everybody in the department a camera.
Am I looking at the wrong thing? I got 182,000.
That's what I
Yeah,
have.
52 for the first year, then 32 for after.
182, 690, 180.
You want to see?
Yeah, no, I believe you. I will give you, I believe that somehow they sent the wrong one, but,
Right, maybe this isn't the updated.
so I'll give you guys the updated one.
Kevin, it does say this quote expired 2/1/21. So that might be.
Thank you.
That was from last year, I think, when we first started
Thank you.
the process.
Can't we get them to come down?
To last year's price?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Give it, let Maureen will get them.
I like to negotiate.
So that would give each officer a camera and a taser for the next 5 years. And it's pretty much the same lease. You know, maybe like, we put in things where the cameras automatically come on if the officer draws his weapon or his taser. There's no thing where the officer has to turn the camera on. It's an automatic thing. So that costs a little bit more, but we didn't want to put it on the officer who's either chasing somebody or pulling somebody over or whatever, that, oh, I forgot to turn my camera on, so.
Right, or have issues about that. I mean, one of the things that we discussed when we were doing the police panel was the benefit to our officers of having a body-worn camera, so that if there are any allegations against our officers, and, you know, we have a really excellent police force, and I think it will only benefit them. I mean, we've had a couple of
Yeah, we've had numerous conversations. We think in the long run, it's only going to benefit the department and the town and the citizens, you know, who we serve, to say, hey, there's more accountability here, rather than less accountability. I trust all our officers and have, you know, worked with all of them over the last however many years. I feel confident they're doing the right thing, but this is just one more thing to show people when there is a question, hey, they did the right thing. And if they did the wrong thing, okay, we're accountable, we need to train better or do something better to make that better for the citizens that we serve.
Right.
So,
But that
obviously
hasn't-
not every officer is for it, but myself and the vast majority of the officers are, and I think the citizens, you know, of 21st century are for it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're at.
I truly believe that it's essential in the police force nowadays. I think more and more we see on the news and the media that the cameras help prove the situations to what the truth really is, either one way or the other. And I think in the long run, it's better for everybody to have the camera. So I support it 100%.
And I don't know if we would get a discount from our insurance company, or Caleb has written a grant that would only cover about 5,000 of it. Maybe the state is going to come up with more money, you know what I mean, to fund it for small departments. And this is, and I'm not trying to be funny, if we lived in a city where there was a high crime rate area, we would probably get a grant to get body-worn cameras. But we don't. We live in a low crime area, which we're happy about, but we still think that they would be a benefit. And there may be some other opportunities to help fund or put money towards it, whether from the DA's office or some other asset forfeiture thing, which we can ask for. But right now, we don't. But one lawsuit would cost
Yeah, that's
a
kinda
lot
what I
more
was
than
thinking, too.
$40,000.
It could prevent a lawsuit that would easily erase whatever we're paying for this, but I do think you should work to the back of the room and do some lobbying here before the night's over.
And I think I should give it a shot to see if I can get the price down.
Easily, we could, that might be a good idea,
Okay.
so.
So do we want to move with this tonight?
What do you need from us? I don't see a.
I don't have a resolution.
I think, Kevin, you said this was just for discussion for tonight.
Well, we
What are
could
you
vote on
asking?
it if we have some way of,
Yeah,
if
I think
if you
Kevin
guys are all
wanted-
for it, I think that we could vote on it. This would be the least that we
Price not to
want.
exceed.
Yeah, we'll do a resolution not to exceed this amount.
Not to exceed.
You just do it by motion. Just make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution to authorize the supervisor and the chief of police to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for the, it's a lease, right?
Yes.
Lease, 5-year lease of body cameras and tasers for the Kent Police Department at a price not to exceed a total cost of $195,500.81, paid out at no more than $36,108 per year. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the last item on the agenda.
I just want to echo what the other people said about working with you guys, Maureen, Bill, Paul, you know, all these years of professionalism, and, you know, I feel like support the officers and the dispatchers down at the police department feel that way. You're going to be missed, you know, going forward, and we just want to give you some shirts.
Bullet vest?
I thought there was those used bulletproof vests I was asking.
Bulletproof vest.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
It would have been funnier if you did this before the vote, like, hey, guys.
Wow, if our price is a T-shirt and a bag, I don't know. The last item on the agenda, the last time I'm saying it, well, that's actually not the last item, but the New Year's holiday. So I sent around an email, I thought maybe we should have a discussion to totally put this to rest. This is an odd year because generally, we have, if a holiday falls on a weekend, we give our employees the day off. If it falls on a Saturday, we give them the day off on Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, we give them the day off on Monday. This year, New Year's falls on a Saturday, which would generally mean that we would give the holiday on a Friday. However, that would mean that we have 2 New Year's holidays in 2021, and there wouldn't be a New Year's holiday in 2022. Some towns are doing it that way. Some towns give, you know, the day on either end. I've kind of spoken to, we've had like a little email chain, but this is a question that we have to really put to rest so our employees know which day they're not coming to work. So I don't think we need a formal vote on this, but just kind of a straw poll on how to do this so that tomorrow I can tell everybody when they have off.
Well, I certainly was one of the ones that questioned why there was even a debate on this, but it's been explained to me now that it was an accounting issue with the days off that was making sure that there was one New Year's holiday in 2 different years. So I'm fine with the Monday holiday at this point.
I agree.
Okay.
Because this won't happen then next year. Next year. it
Right,
won't.
next year, everything will be
Every
back.
7
there won't
years
be
it
any
repeats
issues.
itself.
Right. All right, so then I'll let everybody know it's Monday. So don't come to Town Hall on January 3rd because we will be closed. Okay, should we have the...
Ready?
vouchers?
I ask the town board to approve the following vouchers as of December 21st, 2021, that are over the threshold. Semco Water, $10,336.74 for Water District 2. Semco Water, $4,433.94 for Water District Number 1. Danbury Auto Spring, $3,568.40 for Front Springs for Highway Truck 47. Hogan and Rossi, $5,416.63 for legal services. John Deere Financial, $20,142.34 for lease payment. Magna 5 MS, $3,450.45 for network service. Magna 5, $3,881.74 for telephone service. PF Beal and Sons, $4,801 for Water District Number 2 well. Purchase Power, $2,000 for postage. Rhodey, Soka, and Andrews, $2,280 for the Kent Soil Mining Code. Solitude Lake Management, $14,000 for hydro raking at the Lake Tibet. Spain Agency, $69,407.48 for the quarterly installment. Town of Kent Municipal Repairs, $21,130.06 to chargebacks for highway. Town of Kent Municipal Repairs, $8,399.99 chargebacks for sanitation. Woodward and Current, $11,400 for the Palmer Lake project. Woodward and Current, $9,800 for the Palmer Lake project. Woodward and Current, $113,380 for the Palmer Lake contract. I ask you to approve as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Announcements. I don't have any announcements.
I'd like to take the opportunity to, thank the three of you. I've only been on the board now for 3 years, and we've certainly had our agreements and disagreements from all of you on the board up and down, but it's been a true pleasure. I mean, I've learned a lot from each and every one of you, and hopefully I can continue to move on with, some of the pet projects that you guys have brought to the board. And I look forward to sitting down with Councilman Eustis here over the next couple days or weeks and picking up some of his leads and contacts so I can continue on them with them. I hope Maureen and Jamie, I hope you guys are starting to sit down to make a smooth transition. I don't know how that works. I never been here on a transition before, but I hope that all goes smoothly and for the residents of Kent and nothing changes and we continue plugging right along and getting the services that they expect done. So. But thank you all for 3 interesting years. It's been strange because of the pandemic and the mining stuff. It's been a lot going on, and we've really been challenged, and we've stood up to it fairly well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The town of Kent has benefited greatly from the 3 of you, and I wish you the best of luck in wherever life takes you. I know where life's taking you, but come January. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Not you.
Oh, not me.
All right, public comment, if nobody has any other announcement?
I just very briefly.
I was going to let you comment publicly. But
Yeah, right?
Go down there.
Public comment? So, wouldn't be unlike me if we didn't end on a somewhat controversial note. So, I want to briefly discuss the town's enforcement of the state mask mandate. I would like to note that the county executive and Putnam County government, Health Department and law enforcement of Putnam County has put on a press release saying they will not enforce the governor's mask mandate. That is the county's lead. They are charged with enforcement pursuant to the mask mandate as far as I understand it. So I would like to add an item to the agenda to make a motion to adopt a resolution to follow Putnam County government and the state, follow Putnam County government and have the town government and the Town of Kent Police Department to make a statement that they will not be enforcing the mask mandate. So I would ask that we add an item to the agenda for that purpose.
Second.
Discussion? Paul, I support the statement you're making. I don't know if it's necessary at the town level. I would support the resolution to say that we support the county's resolution of that they're doing. I don't know as the town board level if we have to get that detailed. If the county's taking the lead on this stand, I support the county's stand on it, and I'd be acceptable to a resolution saying that we support the county's position.
About the yeah, sure. I can amend that.
Are we, is this discussion or are we?
Discussion.
I mean, with regard to discussion of it, and we've had this kind of discussion in email form. I think that the county did not say, never said not to observe the mask mandate. The county said that they would not enforce the mask mandate, as other counties have said, because they don't want to divert funds, resources, and personnel to basically police a mask mandate. And I don't think the town of Kent ever intended to, I mean, we don't have, the mandate is supposed to be enforced by health departments, not police departments. We don't have a town health department, and we certainly would never have asked our police department to enforce the mandate. So I don't know, other than making a political statement, which I have to say for 8 years I've been quite opposed to the town board making political statements. I don't know, other than making a political statement, what teeth this has. Clearly, we have signs up at Town Hall that there is a mandate. We have people in the audience, almost everybody in the audience is wearing a mask. We are not having the people that are not wearing masks carted out. We allowed them to come in. So other than, you know, one last, we don't like state government, I really see no point in doing this, but let's take a vote. Did we had a second, right?
Second.
We were on discussion.
No.
No, it was to add the item to the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So I'd
Is
like,
everybody in favor to add it to the agenda?
No, let's have a roll call.
Councilman Denham.
yes.
Councilwoman McGlasson.
Yes.
Councilman Eustis.
Yes.
Councilman Ruthven.
Yes.
Supervisor Fleming.
No.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, so I'm going to propose a resolution. I'll try and fashion it for Chris's support, to make a motion to adopt a resolution to follow Putnam County and support Putnam County's lead, whereby Putnam County government, health department, and law enforcement will not be enforcing the governor's unrealistic mask mandate. That is a quote from the county website, and make that motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Denham.
Yes, and just really briefly, I've been on this board now for 8 years, and this has been the one issue for the last 2 years that has probably been the most frustrating issue ever. As of this week, Carmel Central School District decided that they could no longer provide services to kids, kids with special needs, kids with regular needs. They couldn't provide transportation. They couldn't do anything because of the coronavirus. These dictates, these mandates, these things, they pile up and they do real harm. They do real harm. The drug overdoses and suicide rates and learning disabilities of our kids are way up. 2 years into a mandate where everybody is vaccinated or could be, everybody is boosted and could be, and according to the New York State Department's own health department, there is a 0.0003 chance that you will die if you contract the virus. And so this week, no special needs kids in the Carmel Central School District will be getting physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy. None. So for all this show, and this pomp, and this circumstance, just to be clear, the governor, the night before she issued this mask mandate, the night before, she was indoors in New York City at a political holiday party without a mask on, taking photos, arm in arm with people, not social distancing, not nothing. 10 a.m. the next morning, there's a mask mandate. The result, kids are harmed. Her political statement is made, yay. I support Mary Ellen Odell. I support the county executive. I support our county government. I think we should follow their lead. I vote yes.
Councilwoman McGlasson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Eustis.
Yes.
Councilman Ruthven.
Yes.
Supervisor Fleming.
No, and I'm gonna kind of say why. The position that everybody is vaccinated is clearly untrue. The positivity rate in Putnam County is up to 10%. Used to be about 2%, 1%. Now it's up to 10%. We've had very serious cases of COVID within our town, unfortunately, and within our town government. And I think that to make masks political is absurd when health officials are saying that maybe masks don't do everything, maybe masks aren't 100%, but whatever protection you can afford to other people. I'm double vaccinated and boosted. I'm not really that concerned about myself, but I am concerned about the elderly and children and people I run into. And so I think at this very last juncture, but, hey, this is what happens, to make this kind of political statement, which is diametrically opposed to health and safety, is unwise, and I vote no.
Motion carried.
Just to let you know, not my favorite doctor, Dr. Leanna Wen. She was the former head of Planned Parenthood. She's CNN's senior medical analyst, and she was on CNN today, and she said, and I quote, "Don't wear cloth masks. Cloth masks are no more than a facial ornament." So the lead scientist on CNN, who is not a Republican, who is not in my political party, came out today and said that cloth masks, which is mandate masks, and which a lot of people are in there protecting others against, not me, it is ornamental face decorations.
Well, I have to say, Paul, I am impressed that you have watched CNN. I think in 8 years, I never would have expected you to quote CNN. But I have to say, a commentator on CNN who is an MD, God bless. I think that the leading epidemiologist in the country, Dr. Fauci, has a different position. But we voted on it. Let's we're almost done here.
Almost.
So let's have public comment, or do you want to add something else?
I'm done.
Okay. And then I figured we'll make comments. Right, Bill?
Sue Kotzer, Town of Kent. I was reading in the paper about the pot sales, and December 31st is the deadline to opt in or opt out. I want to thank this town board for opting out right from the beginning. No questions asked. Also, with all the money being spent, or maybe to be spent, I heard nothing about a senior center coming to town.
You didn't hear that?
You did.
Didn't hear it?
$200,000 for seniors?
I didn't. Sorry.
Well, I can say it's a dream,
A dream.
okay? We have a lot of elderly,
I know.
right? And right now, their club has no place to go. Many of them during this big pandemic has been isolated, and no one, has stepped up as far as addressing it to a point. And and if you follow my career, I attempted to, at the last minute, they took $1 million away from us, okay? I don't want to get into it, but
Okay.
that's a dream right now, so I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Still a dream. That's okay.
Hopefully not. You heard the gentleman speaking earlier. We're working in that direction.
Yeah, you are. Getting there. Kent Recycling. There's 2 items about money. The sale of the truck and the recovery from the insurance from the gate. And I've spoken with Yulia, and she assures me that that money will come from the town and will go back into the Kent Recycling Center Fund?
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It's great to be here.
Thank you, Sid.
I love the roads at night. Anyway, I'm really here because there is a retiring supervisor. And I know that others are leaving too. And Bill, I'm going to miss all of your phone calls on zombies, zombie houses, and everything else. And I know you just sent me something on roads and whatever, so I'm sure that you're going to still be totally involved.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Anyway, but I'm here because, when I looked at the agenda, I was thinking about Maureen with the agenda, and you had the town roads, and I know you've worked so hard in the community to develop with Rich, the highway superintendent, where you're going and how you're planning to rehab roads and bridges and so on. And you certainly have a lot of them as we drive around. So you've done such a great job in that area. And the Eustis Park, and I guess your name kind of keeps continuing, right? Yes, but it's so exciting to have more recreational facilities besides the playground out here, besides your winter festivals, and trying to bring families together, which is so important. So I admire you for what you've done. And just, you've been a great financial manager for the town. I think the taxpayers are very lucky to have had you in that seat. So on behalf of the New York State Assembly, I do have a citation for you.
Oh, wow.
And I'll read it. Okay. Whereas we are gathered here this evening to celebrate Maureen Fleming on the occasion of her last meeting as a supervisor of the town of Kent after 8 years of extraordinary productive service, and whereas Maureen is the public servant she seems born to be, she has advanced a robust vision of community that is inclusive, thoughtful, and imaginative, a vision that has made Kent a place that can meet the needs of the future while remaining respectful of the past. And whereas Maureen has accomplished this by bringing together the many voices in Kent and by mastering with consummate skill the relative, I'm sorry, my glasses get fogged up here. Okay. The relevant financial and technical problems so that the vision could become reality. And now, therefore be it resolved that as a duly elected member of the Assembly of New York, I recognize that Honorable Maureen Fleming is an exceptional individual, worthy of both the community and the great state of New York, signed by Sandy Galiff. So I loved working with you on all these many, many projects, and I just want to thank you for a job very well done. So I'm going to leave you.
Thank you, Sandy. You've really always been a friend to me, and more importantly to the residents of this town. You've been a friend to Kent, and I'm sure that friendship will continue. You've done so much for us, and thank you for this. This is really special. Anyone else? Okay. Do we have?
Sure.
So, any final words, Paul?
I'm all set.
Bill? Come on.
I tried to take a different tact in some of the litigation that went over for several years here with the developers and stuff. And take example Bob's Garage, who met with us publicly, and I said, what about a good neighbor grant to help Lake Carmel? Ken Akers Corporation offering a contribution, and knowing there was some ties going way back with some people I knew. So we need to look at some of these things, and when it's fair and balanced, so to speak, and it's good for the town. Possibly they can show their good gratitude in helping us out, and you see it with Mr. Camarda now with the helping with the design of the park, and I'm sure Patterson Crossing's coming back, and we'll be hearing about that in the next few years. And some of the new projects he's working on. And, in many of these developers, the litigation, we've lost a number of these things, and I think we need to take a different tack. As long as our environmental issues are addressed, our fair and balanced as far as the planning board process, and we got to speak up. I'm determined, and I know I stepped on a few toes politically, but I feel Kent needs to step up and get a fair treatment all over. I mean, Sandy Galiff helps us out tremendously. I'll never forget the dealings I had with Chuck Schumer's office when we had the postal delivery problems in Lake Carmel. And many of these people had on film some of the things that were going on. And some of the substitutes were coming out of New York City. And it seemed there was a no-care attitude, and to see some of the clerks in tears by the former postmaster really got my gut. I worked with Senator Schumer's lieutenants, I'm going to say. These young ladies were dynamic, and I did send a little letter. I urged Maureen to deal with the big guy, Chuck, but some of the people that I worked with that helped us out, and I'm very happy that he pulled through on Maureen's letter and stuff, because he doesn't normally send letters of support to towns. And one of my kids at one point was going to be his manager for this region, you know, and then he left because he was coming to visit the town of Kent. You know why? Mr. Schumer, I know, you know, you're our elected. I want to see some money for the town of Kent. And I was hoping the historic facility at 1374 was going to be it, but some things happened and it didn't work out. But you'd never say never. You continue to fight and advocate. And I'm going to drive you crazy, Chris Ruth and Jamie, because I got a whole outline of stuff, contacts, and we've got to keep on pushing. And there's a zip code issue, guys, and they got to know where the town of Kent or Kent Lakes, New York is. We're getting, if you Google sometimes, the town of Kent doesn't exist in 10512 zip code. It's got to change, and past administrations have attempted to do that, and that's a major task. But if the postal system's starting to get revised, maybe that was the time to deal with this. And when I read in the newspaper we only had 2 zombie homes in the town of Kent, right? But the town of Carmel used our numbers. It was time to step up. So that's my advice to everybody, and it's very time-consuming. And I know I drove my town attorney crazy with all the emails and stuff, but yes, I have a dream for a senior center, a community center probably with seniors and kids and stuff. Why? I see what all the other towns are doing, and East Fishkill. Southeast got a nice one in Lake Tenetta. Carmel's trying to plan a big multiplex, but see what they've done. The tour is just unbelievable. Kent can. And it just gets me upset when they say the town of Kent. I decided to stay and live in the town of Kent and could have worked for 2 different governors, 2 different political parties, Mario Cuomo and George Pataki. All right? I decided to stay here, and I'm still here. And we've got to all work together. Sue keeps me on my toes, so I appreciate that. The questions you ask keeps us all on our toes. Keep it up. Anyway, thank you, and unless I move to it.
I got a couple
Okay,
things.
go ahead.
I just wanted to say what an honor and a privilege it has been to serve the residents of the town of Kent. I was an unlikely candidate back in 2013, running with this team on the conservative line, and running by myself on the Democratic line, and we did it. We brought kind of a breath of fresh air, I thought, to the town of Kent. And you know, one of my pledges back then was to be fiscally conservative and fiscally responsible. That first budget that we walked into put pay raises in for all the employees, including town board members, and I think Bill, Paul, and I were the 3 board members that voted to roll those salaries back. We didn't take the first raise. We only took 1 in our 8 years, because there was a commitment to the people that live in town, the people that have to reach into their pockets to pay our salaries and to pay for improvements. And we've been able to deliver 8 budgets with no tax increases while making major improvements in the town, improvements to infrastructure and improvements to, I think, spirit. You know, starting the Winter Festival, having the backyard Olympics in the summer, trying to bring back the sense of small town community that I think people move to Kent to have. And so I'm very proud of the work this board has done, and the boards previous that we've worked with. You know, some of it was kicking and screaming. Not everything was unanimous, but I have to say, you know, people had said to me, you're the only Democrat on a 5-person board. You know, how do you do it? And I said, because not everything is 4-to-1 with me as the one. I think this board has been able to, and the previous boards I've worked with, put their heads down and really work for the benefit of the people of the town. And although sometimes, you know, we have a disagreement or sometimes things come up that we have to expound on, I think that when you sit in these seats, your only goal should be to improve your town and to really make the people that voted for you, and certainly make the people that didn't vote for you wish they did. So I'm proud of the work we've done. I, you know, have always had really, you know, I've answered the phone all on weekends. I've responded to people at 1 o'clock in the morning, much to my husband's chagrin and displeasure. Why are you doing that? But I thank the people of the town of Kent for the trust that they've invested in me. And I have to say, I wish the incoming supervisor, Jamie McGlasson, much luck. I wish the Ann Ballant Campbell and Jorma Tampuri very good luck coming in. It's, you know, it's a hard job, but it's, people say it's thankless. It's not thankless. It is really rewarding. So, thank you.
Where are you going next? Going to Disney World?
Yeah. No, I might not be able to come back, so. Anyway, Bill, can I hear it one more time?
Yes, I'd like to move to adjourn to exec, no.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. And Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New
Yes.
Year. And remember, be careful out there.